Okay, we're going to get started now. So, all right, welcome to the Make Every Connection Matter webinar. Once again, my name is Likky Lavji. Today, my goal is to help you create a new way of thinking that will transform what the world looks like for you in the way of building connections. By the time the hour is over, you'll have some new strategies to create connections that matter and some options for what you can do to make every connection matter system to the next level. So I'm going to get this out of the way first so you can focus on the webinar. Yes, at the end of the webinar, I'll be sharing our offer and a gift for our workshops. But for now, let's just focus on how to transform the way we think about relationships. And we're about to get started here, but before we do, I just want to make sure you understand to reach out to us during the presentation, put information in the chat. Sam is going to be monitoring the chat window and getting information out to me. And then to get information about us and what we do, what we're up to, what we're about, you can always reach us at success@likkylavji.com. So who did we create this webinar for? You know, we thought about this. We created it for a specific person in mind. So you're in the right place. If you want help to grow your business, if you're in the business for yourself, a realtor, a broker, or just moved in the area, if you're an entrepreneur who needs help focusing and growing business, if you've hit a ceiling in your business or personal life, if you're looking for what's next in your life, if you want an easy way to network and meet people. In today's program, I'm going to show you how to create relationships that result in more sales and allow you to naturally grow your business. Before we're finished, I'll walk you through the entire 5-step process I used to take my IT consulting firm from 6-figure debt to over $2.5 million in annual revenue in a short time as well. I'll also let you know what you can do to accelerate your results and how to get more help if you want it. So before we dive into all the content, I just want to help you get in the right mindset. So just take a minute, turn off your cell phones and your notifications, put it on silent. Make sure you get a glass of water. We're going to be here for about an hour. To ask questions, which I really encourage, please use the chat window. And as well, I'll be sending a copy of this recording at the end. So please feel free to take notes if you need to, but we will send you the recording as well at the end. Also, just to think, I just want you to understand what if you could, think if I could. You know, just think about if I could have more sales, if I could have happier employees, have a better relationship, work better with my vendors, have a striving business. Think if you could have a sales team that received referrals always. Think if I could grow my business. I think if you can make a difference like you already have in other people's lives at a massive scale, and think if you could do this all on your own terms. That's what I'm hoping to show you today. Now, we have somebody on unmute. So if it's possible for everybody to just mute your system so we can not get interference, that'd be awesome. Thank you very much. So a few years back, I was given a book called The Go-Giver by Bob Burke and John David Mann. It was timely as our IT business was on a downhill spiral. Our employees weren't happy, customers were leaving, we had flatlined, and we weren't really getting any new customers. Now, once I read this book, I quickly realized it was me. I was the problem. And what I had done was I'd forgotten what relationships were all about. I was trying to grow a business for the money and losing sight of my connections, which included customers, employees, and vendors. We had to make a number of shifts in the business, but for today, let's focus on how to build strong relationships. There are 5 elements to creating successful sales. The first one is about networking. Let's focus on transforming the way networking is perceived and done. The everyone way, and then the right way. Well, the everyone way, we give out cards, we say, give me a call, let's keep in touch. And most of us try and sell right on the spot by saying how good you are, or it's always about the features and not about what's in it for them. In our full sales training program, we dig deeper into these 5 additional strategies to build relationships. But for now, let's focus on applying the golden rule of networking. So the golden rule of business, I call it, is all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to people they know, like, and trust. My good friend Bob Berg and mentor says this to me all the time. It says it to all of us all the time. It says, build your relationships, build trust, and business will just start happening. And that's kind of what happened to us. And that's why I'm sitting here in front of you today and want to share what I got out of how I transformed my business. And I'm hoping some of these little tricks will help you guys as well. So imagine, you create value in such a way that your prospects, customers, and clients will be attracted to do business with you, to buy more from you, and to refer you to others. Touch lots of lives with the exceptional value you provide. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. I love the word here, serve. We're all in the business of serving as opposed to in the business of selling. So invite you to start thinking about serve as opposed to selling. Build networks, expand and deepen your network of personal walking ambassadors. What is the personal walking ambassador? Well, it's your center of influencers, people that are actually doing business for you. We're going to get into that a little bit later as well. Drawing upon the information, relationships, and wisdom from the community of talented go-givers. That's how you build networks. Now, to be real, be comfortable. Bring your best authentic self to the table and continue doing what you do and what you've learned, growing and improving continually. Now, can you imagine me sitting here right now and having the headphones on and being like Tony Robbins and trying to just get you guys riled up? That wouldn't work. That's not who I am. So just trying to be real is kind of who you are, and this is me. I should actually have a bow tie on. I'm kind of known for my bow ties. So the other one is, stay open. Stay open to the abundance that is your bright right. Never again struggle with money because you understand how and why it works and how and why you're able to attract more and more of it your way. This is one of the ones that really transformed me, is about staying open to receiving. We talk about receiving relationships, but let's stay open to also asking for money. A lot of us build relationships, make really good friends, but we don't know how to take it to the next level and really close that deal and really get that client engaged so they want to do business with you. And then you have no problems talking about money. So I want to talk about that a little bit later as well today. We have lots of Facebook friends, LinkedIn connections. This conversation isn't about them. Trust really happens when you really connect with people. Joe Girard puts it simply: most people have about 250 people in their lives who would show up at their funeral or wedding. Just think about that. There's different cultures that may have more or less. In our culture, we could have about 500 or 600 people. In our weddings, we have over 700 or 800 people. So it's not about that one, but it's about the average of what most people know. Now, if there's 250 people that do they know what you do? And are they able to articulate what you do to their 250 people? Now, I'll ask you to do some math there. I'm not going to do it, but just imagine doing the math there, what it ends up being. What the idea here is, your closest relationships, your closest connections that you have, really need to understand who you are and have trust in you so that your name comes up when the requirement comes up for your services. But they need to know what that is. So when we're meeting people for the first time, I use something called, my method is called FORM, to make connections really easy, where, F stands for family, O is for occupation, R is for recreation, and M is for message. Now, can you just imagine what this could look like? You could have a situation where you're meeting people and you're just talking about family and getting to know them, getting to know who they are and what they're about. Occupation, you can, even if you know what they do, you can say, how did you get started in your business? What's the best part you like about this? What do you enjoy most about your profession? I love going to people and saying, how do you balance your personal life and your business life? That's got to be a very big of a challenge, with your kids involved. Now, all of a sudden, they're telling me about their kids, talking about cycling, talking about soccer games. And I get to know all these things. But the idea here is to really make note of all this. I use a little bit of a trick of myself. So, when I go to networking events, I've got business cards that I get from people after I've had this conversation, and I put them in my right pocket, because the right pocket for me is people I really want to get connected to. We had a good relationship, we had a good conversation. And then after 2 or 3 good connections, I'll step away and I'll make notes on those business cards. And the notes are basically FORM, and write as much as I can. Once I finish that and we're done for the evening and I get back to the office or back home, I put all that into my CRM. In our CRM, we actually have 4 fields called FORM. So next time I meet that person or I'm going to go see them, I'll pull up my CRM and I make sure I read what I know about them so we can continue our conversation. The idea here isn't to say, okay, I got the F, I got the O, I got the R, I got the M today. Okay, I'm done, I'm connected. It's not about that. It's actually just about building a relationship over time. And how do we build a relationship over time? Well, you start with this form methodology. And if you start doing that, now you start talking about creating value. Your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. I remember this commercial from by IKEA where the husband's sitting in the car, there's rafter full of furniture on the top, and the wife runs out and says, "Start your car!" And she feels that she's stolen the goods. She's received so much value that she feels that she stole the goods. I ask you, do your friends, families, and customers, vendors, and employees feel the same way? Are they feeling connected with you? Are they feeling that they're getting more value than they are in what you're charging them? I used an analogy, actually. I was at a client meeting yesterday. I said, imagine you finished doing your work with this client and you're sitting in a car doing your notes, and they actually knock on your window and say, "That's all you're billing me?" Imagine if that's what it was, as opposed to, "Oh, here's a bill again." We want to make sure that the connection, the relationships we have are so tight and so ingrained in the value that they understand that. But what does value look like? Let's break that down. And I'm going to share what I've learned in value. And this is something that Bob Berg has shared with us as well. There's 5 elements of value. And the first one is excellence. When I talk about excellence, I think about Ritz-Carlton. Whether you've stayed at Ritz or not, you understand Ritz stands for excellency. They're incredible. They're very good at what they do. It's always my pleasure to serve you as opposed to thank you. It's always Mr. Lavji, how are you? It's interesting. When you walk in, they understand who you are and what your requirements are. I've heard stories about things like, there was a couple at Ritz-Carlton. There was a shoe that the partner's shoe broke, and they were flying out the next morning. The bellman actually ran out, picked up the shoes for her, got them fixed, and had them delivered to her before she was flying out the next day. That's Ritz-Carlton. That's the way Ritz-Carlton does business. Then there's consistency. Consistency is how you do things the same all the time. That comes to my mind as Subway or McDonald's. No matter where you are in the world, the fast food chains have a consistent process no matter where you are. So I invite you to think about, what's your consistent process? Well, how do you make things excellent? And how do you have consistent process within your relationships and your business friends and your employees? The next one is attention. Imagine a travel agency or a surgeon not paying attention to what your requirements are. Imagine a realtor not listening to what the details required for your home are. Now, let's take this one step back to employees. When we had employees, and I'll admit this, we weren't listening to them at one point. We weren't listening to what the requirements were. We were just assuming we knew what they wanted. So we weren't paying attention to the detail. And once we started doing that, things shifted for us. So, when I talk about moving away from our concerns we had in our business, from the debt to the profits, we put these 5 things in play. And I'm going to get to the next one, which is empathy. Empathy is huge. You think about putting yourself in other people's shoes. Imagine a blood center or a cancer agency not being empathetic to the patient, not being empathetic to the client, and they're just about themselves. That's not going to go too well. As an employer, I had to be empathetic to my employees. They'd walk in and they'd have a concern at home or something happened. I had to be empathetic to the situation. It wasn't about the business. It was about what they were going through. I had to put that into perspective. And same as when you go to see clients, in the IT business, I used to make a joke. Nobody ever used to call me to say, hi, how are you, Likky? It was all about, hey, we have a problem. Can you fix it? And some of them would be upset. And we had to step back and say, they're not upset at us. They're upset at the situation. They're experiencing a problem right now. And it's our job to resolve it. And that's why they've hired us. And that's what we're up to do. But our job is to make sure we take care of their customers so that they can run their business properly. And empathy is one of the biggest ones that we change in our organization and in our business as well. The last one is appreciation. This is the one that we all need to improve on. When we meet clients or we have employees, one of the things I always want to thank my customers or my clients that I meet with is that thank you for the opportunity for me to serve you. It makes a big difference in my life for you to be a part of my life so that we can grow together. And that does, it makes a big difference. I learn from my clients. We don't know it all, we never do. And once we're engaged and we have a partnership with our clients and our employees and our partners, we all learn. So I want to appreciate them. We want to thank them on an ongoing basis. So these 5 elements were real key in our business, and it really made a big difference when we grew. That was a tipping point. Now, mind you, there were some other things that we had to do, business process changes and having the right people in place. But these elements were really consistent, and we made sure we were able to manage them within our employee base, our customer base, and our vendor base. Our vendors were key partners for us as well. We treated them like customers. We cared for them, so they cared back for us. And we had core values that we were following, and the core values match with our vendors as well. And if they didn't match our core values, we wouldn't work with them. It didn't make sense to work with them. So I just want to share that with you. Now, we get into the types of value. There's the intrinsic value, and then there's the extrinsic value. And if you look at car dealerships, for example, in the Vancouver area, there's probably 10 Honda dealerships. In those Honda dealerships, they all have the same cars. They have a Civic, they have an Accord, they have a hybrid car, they'll have a Pilot, they'll have an Odyssey. So it's the same car. Prices are very similar. $100 here, $100 there. It's not much of a difference in price. But why is there a number 1 dealership and a number 2 dealership, and then why is there a number 8 dealership? It could be location, but there's also some intrinsic value that they have. They have some extrinsic value that they want to portray to their clients. That could look like something like better service, really caring about people. They've actually taken the 5 elements of value, put them into play. Appreciation is huge. They actually care about the clients. What is your extrinsic value? Start thinking about that. What differentiates you from your competition? What differentiates you as an employer from the other employers? If you're struggling to put this into words, in our full program, we actually dedicated an entire module on this. But if you want some examples of this, put it in the chat window, and we'll send you some samples later on. So, if you start touching lives, imagine if I was to say your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. Well, Simon Sinek puts this really well. He says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Touch lives. Well, you can do that by helping others, build trust. You can impact people's lives. And, a lot of the people that are on this call right now, on this webinar, I know most of you personally, and I can see what you're about. You're about making a change in people's lives. And we all know that the more people's lives we touch, the better connected we are. This is a key point to pay attention to. One of the things that we forget to do is, we start giving value. And, I want to preface this conversation. This conversation isn't about just being a good person and the good will come back to you and, the whole, the pay it forward movement. That is in our DNA. We all have that already built in. That's why you're here. You're actually here because you want to pay yourselves forward. Today's conversation is about having that in your DNA, but also giving more in value. And the more people's lives you touch, the more money you make. It's simple as that. Give value, touch more people's lives, and the more income you'll make. And that's simple as that. So making sales is a concept where touching lives is a reality. So your compensation is directly proportional to how many lives you touch. Building networks of your influencers. I talked a little bit earlier about networking and how do you build your centers of influencers. Your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. So when we're talking to people, we should be talking with them and listening for what they're saying. I admit I used to have a challenge with that. I used to have my words would come out before they'd even stop talking. I'd have an answer in place already. And that doesn't allow them to finish their conversation. That doesn't allow conversations to be connected. So we have to listen. We have to build a network. We have to really understand what they're looking for. And it's about them looking for what their needs are. And I love using the car analogy. A lot of my customers are in the car business. So imagine a customer comes in and is looking to buy an SUV, for example. But the guy sees him driving in a convertible hot rod. The salesman can't relate an SUV requirement to the hot rod the guy walks into, so he pushes them into a convertible new car. There's no paying attention to the customer at that point. It's all about what your perception is, what the customer needs. It's not about that. It's about putting the customer's needs at first. Remember, the value is the eye of the beholder. It's the perceived value the customer sees. So when we start building networks, most of us automatically think of networking events, but there are many, many more ways to build networks than you might realize. Where else can you meet people? Banks, restaurants, your neighbors, your kids' sports teams. We all have a number of blind spots. And in our full program, we uncover some of these blind spots, and we have a system to help you find some of these and build your centers of influencers. Blind spots are interesting. I had one, which is, actually when I found it, it was kind of, it was interesting, it was funny. I go to the same Starbucks every day, in the morning, and I call myself a high maintenance coffee drinker because I've got this tall, dark with 1 pump sugar-free vanilla with a 1/2 inch of steamed almond milk, not too hot, not too cold. So they got to know me really, really well. So I'd walk in and the barista would say, "Hey, same drink?" I said, "Yeah, perfect." And, I'd pay for my drink and I'd walk over to where they make the coffee and I'd sit there and just chat up with them and really pay attention to what they're all about. So if I'm paying attention to them, building relationships, all of a sudden, I would have my meetings there most of the times. I would work there in the mornings. The barista goes to me one day, she goes, "What do you do? Like, what are you about? Because you're always in here having fun, you're meeting different people and you're laughing away and having a jolly old time." I said, "Well, this is what I do." She goes, "I can't believe it." She goes, I know so many people here. Can I introduce you to some of these clients that come into Starbucks?" And that was my blind spot. I said, I'm sitting in Starbucks. I've connected with this barista. There's people coming in she knows. Of course I said yes. So now imagine me sitting at a table at Starbucks in the corner, working away or in a meeting. And she would look at me and she'd say, "Okay, how about introduce you to these guys?" She would physically bring the person over to me and make an introduction. Now it's up to me what I do with that introduction. So what do? Put my form methodology in place, talk about family, what they do, what they do for fun. Now this Starbucks I go to is right next to Steve Nash, which is a fitness club. So you can just imagine all the people out of the gym come out there. So they're all about recreation and health. So easy conversation to start. How's your workout? What did you up to? What did it look like today? We built relationships there and we ended up getting customers out of that. Now, that's a huge blind spot. Now think back what your blind spots are. So, we've covered meeting people. We've covered engaging with them. Now, the key to building trust is follow up and follow through. When you promise something to somebody, make sure you do it. That builds trust and in turn, a stronger connection. Add them to your CRM like I used to. Actually, I still do add them into CRM, and we have a good, clean follow-up system. So have a routine to follow up with them. Add them to your social networks. Give them kudos on an ongoing basis. See what's going on with them. Be engaged with them. But if you committed something, just make sure you follow up with it. We actually send out handwritten cards to people that really makes an impact to them. Just imagine you're you come home and we all have bills sitting on our desks, and they're all pre-printed, and you just put them on a pile. But when's the last time you actually received a handwritten letter or handwritten card with the envelope handwritten as well? People will open it up and they'll really appreciate it. And that part I was talking about appreciation, that's what we kind of do. We're kind of in the habit of doing that. I love going to networking events and where I'm actually connecting people on the spot. I say something like, how can I know if someone I'm speaking to with today is a good prospect for you? What that does is builds trust with them and says, I care. I want to make sure that they're connected. They're at that networking event. They want to learn to get to know people. So it was my job to put the dots together. So as you meet people, find out exactly what they do and start networking and putting people together. That shows value in them as well. It's showing that you care about them, that empathy shows up in there. I recall at our IT company, our receptionists used to just hate answering the phones because they weren't about IT. They were about, hey, does Likky know somebody in the moving company? Does Likky know anything about cars? Does Likky have a mattress dealership that he can work out? So we were the referral source for a lot of our clients. Now, yeah, it's annoying for them, but remember, it's great for the client calling us because we were the trusted source. We built that relationship with them, that built that trust. So once you do that, and we talked a little bit about follow through. And a connector, but how do you ask for referrals? We all have a real hard time asking for referrals. So here's something what it would look like. So, I'm going to say this to you. So imagine in your circle of friends that you have right now, or colleagues that you work with, your business peers that you have, are any of them struggling to grow their business? If so, would you mind sharing this webinar with them? We're going to send you a copy of it after. I'd love it if you shared it with them so we can help them grow their business as well. If there's a name that you'd like us to follow up with, let us know. I'd love to do that for you. Now, that was fairly direct. I had no problems doing that because I know I'm giving you value in this conversation. And I'm out to achieve helping other people. If we can help them take away the pain of growing their business, that's what we're about. So I didn't have an issue asking for that referral. What most people will do is they'll say something like, well, hey, do you know anybody who could use the system? And if there is, let me know, and I'd love to connect with them. When I say the word anyone, it's such a big world. You can't even imagine who they are. But when I say things like in your friend circle or in your colleagues or in the softball team that you play, are any of them business owners? Do they need help? Do they need help growing their business? Now I'm pinpointing into that small little area. We go over asking for referrals in detail in our Endless Referral module. Bob Berg has written this book, and it's out of this world. It really changed the way we ask for referrals. Interesting enough, when we talk about referrals, a lot of people think you have to ask for referrals after you've delivered a service that you've charged for and you've done a good job. You don't. You can ask for a referral on the spot if you build a connection and a relationship. So when you've done this, you imagine you get all these people coming into your lives, you build connections. It's a great way to have friends. But now how do you pinpoint what type of a customer do you want? Do you have your avatar set up? Knowing your avatar is the key to building your business. Once you meet someone and asking them for a specific type of referral is the key at that point. Now, when people ask you, what's the ideal person that you're looking for? You can actually say right away who it is. Now, we don't have time today to cover creating your avatars in depth, but your avatar is so important that in our full training, I devote 2 full modules to this. The key is to describe your ideal prospect in as much detail as possible. It sure made my life easier when I knew what kind of customers I liked, what kind of customers got along with us, and where the impact was. So when you meet people, I love this one, they call it the elevator pitch. The elevator pitch, and there's something called the benefit statement. The elevator pitch, imagine that's very I-focused, whereas the benefit statement is them-focused. Imagine you only have 30 seconds on an elevator, right? That's what they call it, the elevator pitch. Now you have to really sell, and then they walk out. But in 30 seconds, imagine making the conversation about them. What's in it for them to talk to you? Now, they may still walk out because they're on the elevator, but they'll be intrigued and connect with you. They may even stay longer. This is kind of making fun of the elevator, but it's not about the elevator itself. It's about when you meet somebody, when you start going in there and just start selling people right away, here's the features and benefits. And they're like, yeah, okay, I get it. But they may not even have a need for it. But if you say something like, for example, a financial advisor would say something, I help people create and manage wealth. Okay, that's interesting. Or car salespeople, they could say something like, I help people make connections with others by providing a vehicle on how to get there, or on a way of how to get there. And that's, okay, interesting. So how do you do that? Now there's a further conversation. They're intrigued about that. Realtors, I help people successfully sell their home and their dream home. Now, yes, you're a realtor and you're saying what you do, but it's also a lot more detailed and a lot more about them at that point. So, do you have a benefit statement is the first question I'd ask you. And if you'd like help with that, again, put it in the chat window. We'll send you a link with some samples that we have, and then we can help you through some of those things as well. I'd love talking about benefit statements. It's one of my passions to work through that with people, along with the why. The why statement that we talked about with Simon Sinek, that was our key shift in our business and myself as well when I figured out what my why was. So we'll talk about that. And, we talk about being real. Like I said, imagine I had that Tony Robbins hat on right now and the mic running around. This just wouldn't be me. The most valuable gift you have is offer yourself, offer who you are as a person. Just be genuine, be authentic, be real, be you. Just be what you're all about, and it's interesting what life will do for you. I talk to people about this. It's important because a lot of people try and be salespeople, and when you're a salesperson, you're out there to sell, and that's it. And that's not being real. If that's what you are, it shows. Be authentic about who you are. Break it down. Once you know your why, once you know who you are, your benefit statement, you can just be the person you are and just talk. Right now, yes, I do have slideshows. I do have some things to talk to you about, but I'm just being who I am. I'm just sharing what I know because it was important to me when I shifted my business. It allowed me to sleep at night. Just imagine when we were in debt. And yeah, I'm being vulnerable. And again, I'm being real because it was the case. Most of you know me and probably said, I never knew about that about you, Likky, that you guys were in debt like that. Yeah, we were in six-figure debt when I had the IT company, but I wanted to make sure we were able to get out of that. And we had to go back to our root cause, who we were as people. We grew our company to 14 people, but I didn't base it on who I am and my values, my core values. I just hired people just to go sell and just be service people, be service advisors. We failed miserably. I had to really step back and figure out who we were, share that knowledge, share that with our team, hire a new team that molded around that. And that was what really made a big difference to us. And the next one is staying open. The key to effective giving is to staying is open to receiving. A lot of us have a hard time receiving. We have a hard time receiving compliments. We have a hard time receiving anything, even a hard time asking for money. I was talking about networking, and when you're networking and you're building relationships, and now you want to get to the sale part. Well, the sale part is where you have to ask for money, but sometimes we're so afraid of that. We think people aren't going to get comfortable with that. It gets uncomfortable and they start skirting the issue. Well, you've got to be direct about it, and you have to be open to receiving what they say. And you have to be open to talking about what you're worth. I say I was able to actually receive what the right amount of money that I was worth when I was open to receiving. And then all of a sudden our income raised and our value was raised because we were clear on that deliverable. We were clear on that communication with them. We were open to receiving what they had to say to us. And that was our biggest shift. So there's some of you know me personally, and we talk about the shift in my stutter and how I got to where I am today. And I won't share the whole story, but it was because I was open to listening to the conversations that were given to me. And literally overnight, my stutter went away and the business grew because of that. So if anybody wants to talk about that in detail and somebody's struggling with that, reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you out. Put in the chat window, and Sam's making some notes, and we'll talk about that after as well. Up until now, we've implemented these principles only for large corporations and large organizations. But what I'm really out to achieve is transforming as many lives as possible and want to make sure it's available to everybody. So what we've done is I've created an online course. And, in that online course, here's what I promise. I promise we're going to shift your focus to an easier way of selling and building relationships to grow your business. You'll increase your sales and be able to increase your margin and profit. You'll learn how to touch people's lives, as this is a key component in your business growth, as it was for me. You'll create a referral mindset to apply the correct principles to help you obtain referrals. You'll know what to say to prospects and connections to easily transform them into a referral mindset. You'll develop networking skills and develop your own sphere of influencers that'll go network for you and bring you business. You'll learn the difference from just giving to also receiving, which transforms your conversations. I teach all this in our online course, which you can enjoy this from your own comforts of your own home office. We can talk about that after we actually have one-on-one calls part of this course. We have weekly calls for check-ins. When you fully apply the principles we've covered today, the results can surprise you. My client, Christy, was struggling in her business, and as an owner, her referrals were drying up. So she shared with me that Make Every Connection Matter helped her grow her business, and she increased her referrals because she learned how to apply the 5 elements of value. Now, here's some things that other people are saying. We've got a couple of them on the webinar right now. I've got Maria. I know she's on the webinar. Maria basically says, we have the ability to attract the right message for her and learn how to give first, make connections, and be authentic to yourself. Eric Lally talked a little bit about what he got out of his workshop with us. Bob Berg talks about the exceptional value and transformations that we do to our clients. So, I want you to stay open in this next conversation now and talk a little bit about how you're going to get this. I know you're clearly committed because you're still sitting here listening to this webinar, and it's the kind of people that are committed will get true results. So, when you register for this program within the next 3 days, 72 hours, you'll only pay $349. That's $148 savings. I'm also going to give you Bob Berg's Endless Referral Program. I talked a little bit about that earlier. Is how do we ask for referrals? How do we make that happen without making the sale, and ask for it before and right when you're making connections? So, it's been my experience that the people who take fast action are more likely to succeed. And I want to reward those of you with also a 1-hour free consulting session with me. Now, that's only open to the first 15 people. Remember, time is limited. I want to make sure that the people that I engage with really get something out of this. And we're going to talk about where your sales gaps are, where your analysis are. It's going to be a private coaching session with me and help you get to the next level. So I invite you to get in there. So if that's the case, that's what I'm doing is giving away over $100 in total value for only $349. Now, I'm hoping you found some value in this conversation. You want to take this business to the next level. I'd love to help you get there and get started with this right away. So how does this work? Well, right after this conversation, you're going to get an email that's going to show you the link, which is courses.likkylavji.com, courses Make Every Connection Matter. You don't need to remember that. We're going to send you the link for that. But I'd love for you to register for this course. That's your first step to being committed. Then I want you to look at where to go network, find places to go network. Things like, I was surprised, Eventbrite is a great place to learn how to network. Chambers of Commerce, networking events. I belong to this something called the Happy Hour Schmoozers in Vancouver, where we just go network. It's not about selling, we go meet people. Have your benefit statement ready. People want to know what your benefit is. Figure out what your avatars are. Your avatars make a big difference. You can start focusing on exactly who you want to do business with that match your core values and match who you are. And it makes a huge difference. You get to do business with people you know, like, and trust, and they like you and trust you. It's no longer business, it's just having fun. Make a list of your intrinsic and extrinsic values. So as I said, you're going to receive access to this webinar. I've recorded it. I'm going to give it back to you so you get a chance to listen to it again. You get a chance to review the slides. I'm going to send you some networking tips that we brought on this, and some benefit statements. And some people have asked about benefit statements and discovery questions. I'm going to give you those as well. So I thank you. I truly am humble that you've attended. Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy our course, and I will look forward to talking to you every week during our courses. Thank you.